The main aim of their trip this time around was the soul baby fruit. If there was no special circumstances, Xiao also did not wish to create problems that could complicate the matter. However, there are some things that was impossible to avoid even if one wished to do so. Following the increasingly good relationship between the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe and the current Wind Lightning Pavilion, the latter had become increasingly arrogant. It had vaguely really think of itself as the big boss of the four pavilions. This time around, they had forcefully snatched the campsite that the Falling Star Pavilion had found beforehand. This was undoubtedly giving the Falling Star Pavilion a slap. If the Falling Star Pavilion chose to ignore this manner, it would definitely end up being a joke of others. It was necessary to endure and give in occasionally when establishing a sect. However, one must not be weak when it came to things related to principles. Otherwise, it would not only be a great blow to one's reputation, but it would also cause the morale of the disciples within the sect to decline. Currently, Yao Lao was already the pavilion chief of the Falling Star Pavilion. Although Xiao felt a little helpless at the title of junior chief that had inexplicably fell onto him, he naturally needed to be responsible now that the title had fallen onto him. This time around, Yao Lao and Feng Zunjia had given him the authority to lead the group on this trip. This was a kind of trust and test for him. If they were facing the Hall of Soul, a great being that was far stronger than the Falling Star Pavilion, they might only be able to endure for now and wait for the opportunity to take revenge in the future. However, in Xiao heart, the Wind Lightning Pavilion did not possess the qualification that could cause him to withdraw. When he had just arrived at the Central Plains back then, he had dared to challenge the Wind Lightning Pavilion with just the strength of a Do Huang. Even less needed to be said now. The strength of a mere Lei Zunjia was not even a match for Feng Zunjia. Forget about there being two people with the strength of a 3-star Dozuns beside Xiao. Even if he was to act personally, this Lei Zunjia would not be in a position to gain any advantage. This action by Xiao had undoubtedly immediately won the support of all the young disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion who were present. By being able to become the disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion, they were clearly not some useless people. Yet, they had suffered such humiliation in the hands of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Based on the impulsive character of these young people, it was likely that they would forcefully charge forward even though they knew that they were no match for their opponents. They would let everyone know that their Falling Star Pavilion was not some softy. If it was not because of the stern scolding by the two elders today, it was likely that they would have long since exchanged blows with the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Originally, they thought that there was nowhere for them to vent this anger. Unexpectedly, this junior chief, whom they felt a little unfamiliar with in their hearts, was this fiery hot the moment he appeared. In an instant, the position of Xiao in the hearts of these young disciples had directly rose. At times, gaining the support of others was such a simple task. The two elders were startled in the face of this action by Xiao. They hesitated for a moment and saw the bright red faces of the young disciples around them. That hidden demonic flame within their hearts also rose at this moment. Damn it! The Wind Lightning Pavilion had gave the Falling Star Pavilion a slap in front of so many experts. If they did not get back at them, it was likely that they would really lose all of these old faces of theirs. Although they were uncertain about the strength of Xiao, they clearly understood the strength of Little Fairy Doctor, Tianhua Zunjia, and Xiongzhan behind. These three were genuine elite Dozuns. What was just a mere Lei Zunjia worth? We will listen to Junior Chief's orders. The two elders cupped their hands together in a grave manner, after which they waved their hands and took the lead to fly out. A large group of Falling Star Pavilion disciples followed closely behind. That rising murderous aura-like manner attracted quite a number of surprised gazes. There were quite a number of mountain peaks standing near the middle area of the Bone Mountain Range. Due to this place being close to the ancient remains that had appeared, these better locations were mostly occupied by some of the stronger factions. Some of those experts and small factions could only choose to find other places. The interior of the Bone Mountain Range was currently filled with human figures. Loud noises and curses continued to linger beside one's ears. Due to there being too many people, and that this place was not managed by anyone, it had resulted in the Bone Mountain Range to be completely chaotic. It was extremely common for those present would summon their friends over some small matter, and end up engaging in a big fight. There was one mountain amongst those near the middle area that was currently occupied by many figures. A large flag was dancing in the wind at the peak of the mountain. Wind Lightning Pavilion. 3 shiny silver large words were present on it. Looking from a distance, the flag appeared quite domineering. One after another, snow-white tints stood on the top of the mountain. There were vaguely some long-drawn breaths being emitted from within the tints. Clearly, they belonged to some stronger experts. From the looks of it, the Wind Lightning Pavilion had activated quite a great amount of strength for this ancient remains. There was an exceptionally grand large tint located at the middle of the many tints. Quite a number of Wind Lightning Pavilion's experts were standing with cold, stern, cautious expressions outside of it. Some laughing voices were occasionally emitted from within the tent. Clamor. The cover at the entrance of the tent was suddenly pulled open, and a silver-robed person with the scent of wine strided out. Those surrounding guards hurriedly bowed and greeted upon seeing this. Northern Pavilion Chief. Yes. The silver-robed figure responded faintly. His appearance was that of the Wind Lightning Pavilion's Northern Pavilion Chief, Fei Tian, who had chased Xiao Yin with the intention to kill the latter back then. There was not much change in him during these 2 of 3 years. However, his aura was vaguely becoming richer. There was a strange feeling of having half a foot into the next level. The Pavilion Chief is receiving important guests within the tent. Do not allow anyone to disturb him. All of you should pay a little more attention. Fei Tian felt the cold wind before glancing at the experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion around and spoke in a deep voice. Understood. Everyone hurriedly replied upon hearing the order. Fei Tian finally nodded with satisfaction upon seeing this. He was about to turn around and return to the tent when he suddenly frowned slightly. His eyes looked towards that mountain road that led down the mountain top. There was vaguely some noise being transmitted from over that side. What happened? Fei Tian frowned slightly and demanded. This, Northern Pavilion Chief, please calm your anger. This subordinate will go and take a look. An expert, whose strength had reached the strength of a Do Huang, moved his body and rushed towards the bottom of the mountain. Bang! This Wind Lightning Pavilion expert had just charged down the mountain when a muffled sound suddenly appeared before Fei Tian could even recover. Immediately, a human figure was shot backwards while being accompanied by a miserable cry. Over a dozen tents collapsed along the way. Who dares to find trouble in the territory of my Wind Lightning Pavilion? Are you seeking death? This scene instantly caused many experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion on the top of the mountain to change. The expression of Fei Tian also slowly turned gloomy. Capture them, dead or alive. Hearing the cry from Fei Tian that contained a great fury, the many experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion also cried out furiously. Immediately, their figures flashed, and they rushed down the mountain while accompanied by waves of rushing wind and fierce expressions. Fei Tian also slowly took a step forward when he saw so many experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion attacking together. He would definitely teach that person who had caused trouble a good lesson after capturing him. Boom, 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 boom. However, Fei Tian had just took a step forward when a wave of low and deep flesh colliding sound suddenly appeared. Immediately, those Wind Lightning Pavilion's experts that had rushed down fiercely were sent flying back. Blood wildly spluttered as they heavily landed on the top of the mountain. Moans appeared continuously. This scene directly caused Fei Tian's footstep to stiffen. A solemnness surged up his gloomy face. By being able to finish off all the numerous experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion with such swiftness, it was likely that the one who had come was not some weakling. May I know which friend has attacked? This is the campsite of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Hopefully, on account of the Wind Lightning Pavilion's face, Fei Tian's eyes were focused on the mountain road as he spoke in a deep voice. Haha, Pavilion Chief Fei Tian. We have not met for a couple of years, but you still like to use the name of the Wind Lightning Pavilion. Before Fei Tian could finish his sentence, a laughter was slowly transmitted from below the mountain top. Immediately, a large group of figures slowly appeared in Fei Tian's sight. The young man leading them directly caused Fei Tian's eyes to shrink abruptly. Xiao Yin. Seeing that face that left a deep impression in Xiao Yan's mind, a dark and chilly expression instantly surfaced on Fei Tian's face. Back then, Xiao Yin had once caused him to lose his face. Even until now, that matter would occasionally be used as a joke by others. This caused the desire to kill Xiao Yin to become increasingly rich within Fei Tian's heart. It was unexpected that he would meet Xiao Yin again in this place today. I thought who it was. It is actually the people from the falling Star Pavilion who has just been chased away. Fei Tian glanced at Elder Hu and Elder Qi at the side. A ridicule flashed across his face as he spoke. You. The expressions of the two elders instantly turned green upon hearing those words. A fury surged within their eyes. If it was not because the two of them were no match for Fei Tian, it was likely that they would not be able to control themselves and attacked. Why? You have found some helpers and are prepared to get back at us? Fei Tian merely smiled when he saw this. The mockery in his smile grew denser. Although he was unable to see through Little Fairy Doctor's group, he did not treat them as elite Dozuns. One was that the latter was too young, and the second was that his heart thought that Xiao Yin did not have the qualification to befriend Dozuns given his ability. Fei Tian, resolve any trouble quickly. Do not disturb the pavilion chief's good mood. Two figures suddenly rushed out from within the tent. They immediately landed beside Fei Tian and spoke in a deep voice. Yes, I will leave the others to you. Leave Xiao Yin to me. I will let this brat properly return the debt from back then. Fei Tian revealed a ferocious expression and spoke in a low voice. Fei Tian did not wait for the response from the two others after uttering those words. Silver glow flashed under his feet, and he actually disappeared into nowhere. A slight arc was lifted on Xiao Yan's calm face the moment Fei Tian disappeared. His foot took half a step forward, after which his hand aimed at the space in front of him and clenched gently. After this hand was clenched, the space in front of Xiao Yan immediately converged in a lightning-like manner. A figure also appeared in the converged space. If one was to carefully look at it, it was surprisingly Fei Tian, who had just disappeared. However, the face of Fei Tian was currently already replaced by shock and terror. Using a hand to collapse space. This kind of ability, only an elite Dozun could do this. Lei Zunjia, aren't you afraid of causing your Wind Lightning Pavilion to lose face by letting such little kitten and puppy come out? Xiao Yin did not even give Fei Tian a glance after having restrained the latter with a random palm. His eyes directly looked towards the tent and smiled slightly, after which he flicked his finger. The chest of Fei Tian, who was within the converged space, was bent inwards by half an inch. A mouthful of fresh red blood shot out. His figure also flew backwards like a cannonball, after which it violently smashed into the interior of the spacious tent in front of the shocked eyes of the two other Wind Lightning Pavilion's pavilion chiefs. Rip! Fei Tian violently shot into the interior of the tent like a cannonball. A fierce force exploded at this moment. One could hear a ripping sound, and the tent was actually blasted into countless number of fragments that danced in the sky. It immediately fell slowly. Seeing that Xiao Yin was actually this ruthless in his attack, the surrounding experts from the Wind Lightning Pavilion were also stunned. For an instant, no one actually dared to say anything. Young fellow, you are really bold. The tent was blasted apart. It appeared as though those within it were stunned by this action of Xiao Yin. A moment later, someone finally recovered. A furious roar that was filled with the desire to kill resounded over this entire sky. The current Bone Mountain range had already been filled by an endless sea of people. There were people everywhere. When Xiao Yan's group was charging over with surging killing intent, quite a number of people became aware that there was about to be a good show. Hence, rushing wind sound appeared in this entire sky the moment this roar sounded. In the blink of an eye, numerous figures had appeared in the sky around the mountain. The eyes of these people glanced onto the mountain top, after which they saw the tent that was forcefully ripped apart. In an instant, a surprise surged within everyone's eyes. The Wind Lightning Pavilion could be considered to be quite a strong faction on the Central Plains. Otherwise, they would not possess the qualification to occupy a mountain top as a campsite here. It was unexpected that there was actually someone who dared to openly attack. How could this not cause them to feel shock and curious? Xiao Yin ignored those observers that had suddenly appeared around the place. His eyes looked towards the part of the tent that had been broken. Lei Zunjia, whom he had met long ago, was currently standing with a gloomy face. At this moment, his hand was grabbing Fei Tian's robes. There were two old men in beast robes beside Lei Zunjia. However, these two people did not open their mouths at this moment. Instead, they chose to stand idly by the side and observe the situation. Grug. Fei Tian, who was in Lei Zunjia's hand, spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. His dim eyes contained an expression of disbelief. The strength that Xiao Yin had displayed earlier had definitely reached the Dozun class. Even though he had seen it with his own eyes, he was still unable to believe it. This younger generation whom he had chased until the point where the former could only hide like a mouse had currently reached the Dozun class before him. Xiao Yin, you are really bold. Back then, this venerable self had let you off on account of Feng Zunjia. Yet, you actually dare to deliver yourself today? Lei Zunjia's face was dark and solemn. He slowly placed Fei Tian in his hand down. His low and deep thunder-like voice was filled with killing intent. The Wind Lightning Pavilion was used to being overbearing during these years. Currently, they were being bullied by a younger generation in such a place. If he let the matter today rest, he would really lose all of his face. Although he spoke in this manner with his mouth, the shock in Lei Zunjia's heart was currently not any less than Fei Tian. He was extremely clear about Xiao Yan's strength back then. The latter was merely a younger generation who had just advanced to the Dozun class. At that time, the status of the latter in Lei Zunjia's heart was not much higher than that of an ant. Yet, within a short 2 to 3 years, the younger generation from back then had actually soared to the Dozun class. Being an expert of the Dozun class, Lei Zunjia naturally understood just how difficult it was to leap across this step. Fei Tian might currently be at the peak of the Dozun class, but if he lacked the luck, it was not a rare occurrence for him to remain at that level forever. It was also because of the difficulty of taking this step that his heart would feel that shocked when he saw the current Xiao Yin for the first time. Lei Zunjia really knows how to joke. Back then, it is just that the skill of the Wind Lightning Pavilion disciple being inferior to others. It is completely unrelated to your magnanimity. Xiao Yin laughed softly. Back then, Lei Zunjia was an elite Dozun whom he could not match in his eyes. Now, however, this high existence that he could not reach back then was no longer even the least bit strong and mysterious in his heart.
Lei Zunze's face tweaked.
The fury within his eyes also became increasingly rich. He spoke in a dense manner. We have not met for a couple of years, but your tongue is still as sharp as ever. This venerable self shall advise you to leave as soon as possible. On the account of Feng Zunjia, this venerable self shall not make a fuss about this matter with you. This younger generation. Lei Zunjia has joked again. Your Wind Lightning Pavilion has attacked my falling Star Pavilion in front of so many people. Could this also be because of Feng Zunjia's face? Xiao Yin laughed. That mocking tone also caused some laughter to appear around the mountaintop. Lei Zunjia slowly clenched his fist. His eyes stared intently at Xiao Yin as he ended up laughing from extreme anger. Good. Looks like you have come prepared today. In that case, this venerable self shall see just what you, as someone who has just entered the Dozun class, can do today? Nothing much. All I am going to do is to retrieve the falling Star Pavilion campsite. Xiao Yin smiled slightly. He slowly stepped forward. Purple-brown flames slowly surged. The temperature of this entire place swiftly increased as the flame rose. In that case, we'll have to see whether you possess such qualification.
Lei Zunze laughed furiously.
Bright silver lightning glow flickered over his body. Countless number of electric snakes danced. Looking from a distance, it appeared as though a thunder god had descended. His aura was extremely shocking. Seeing the atmosphere between the two swiftly becoming a tense, sword-drawn one, the eyes of the many experts around also became fiery hot. A Dozun class battle would be quite an interesting one. Hee, this Xiao Yin is really arrogant. He actually dares to oppose Lei Zunjia. Looks like he is here to find trouble. Earlier, the Wind Lightning Pavilion had forcefully chased the Falling Star Pavilion away and had even injured someone. I thought that the Falling Star Pavilion will definitely not just swallow this offense. It is unexpected that they have come so quickly. It is not so easy to find this trouble. This place not only have Lei Zunjia present. Moreover, Have you seen the two old men beside Lei Zunja? Those are the tribe leaders of the Earth Tiger tribe and the Silver Moonwolf tribe. They are the subsidiary tribe of the Heaven Demon Phoenix. Given the relationship between the Wind Lightning Pavilion and the Heaven Demon Phoenix, do you think that the two of them will just stand idly by the side? Three elite Dozuns whose strength had reached the peak of 2 stars. This trouble is made of metal. However, this Xiao Yan's name is a little familiar. Damn it, how can it not be familiar? Isn't that the young alchemist who had become the champion of the pill gathering conducted by the Pill Tower? It is unexpected that he would actually appear in this place after disappearing for over a year. Xiao Yan acted as though he did not notice these surrounding eyes that had suddenly become fiery hot. Purple-brown flame rose on his body. Back then, the Dozun pressure that seemed undefeatable was currently unable to deter him by even a little. Haha, this young friend? The matter today is just a misunderstanding. The matter of the two friends from the Falling Star Pavilion is merely because Pavilion Chief Fei Tian is too irritable and had accidentally hurt them when attacking. Moreover, Pavilion Chief Fei Tian is currently injured by you. These matters can more or less make up for each other. Therefore, I will like to trouble young friend to stop on account of the Earth Tiger tribe and the Silver Moonwolf tribe. What do you say? When the atmosphere became increasingly tense, an old man in tiger pattern robes, who had remained quiet by the side, finally laughingly said. The lightning glow on Lei Zunja's body was withdrawn slightly when he heard the old man speak. He spoke faintly. Since the tribe leader of the Earth Tiger tribe had opened his mouth, this venerable self will naturally give you face. This matter. Since this old mister has put it this way, Lei Zunja, please? Xiao Yan smiled slightly. He gently waved his hand, and the Falling Star Pavilion disciples behind him formed a pathway that led to the foot of the mountain. The face of Lei Zunja immediately became gloomy upon seeing this scene. The smile on the tiger-robed old man's face also solidified. He said, "This young friend, must you really do things in such an extreme manner?" The Wind Lightning Pavilion had destroyed the reputation of my Falling Star Pavilion in public. This old mister, are you intending to allow my face to carry this slap back to the Falling Star Pavilion? The smile on Xiao Yan's face was slowly withdrawn. A fierce glint flashed within his dark black eyes. Faced with this Xiao Yan, whose demeanor had suddenly become forceful, Lei Zunja and the two beast-robed elders also had a slight change in their expressions. A chillness immediately surged in their eyes. Good fellow, you actually possess such boldness in the face of 3 Dozuns. You are indeed worthy of being the pill-gathering champion. Xiao Yan's sudden uncharacteristic slight smile and politeness also caused everyone to be shocked. Immediately, some low cheer sounded. I do not care about just how outstanding you are in the human world. However, this place is the beast region. It is not a place where you can behave atrociously. The tiger-robe old man's expression became icy cold as he spoke in a deep voice. Leave this place, and we can let the matter rest. Otherwise, even if Feng Zunjia is here today, I will let you, this younger generation, understand just where is this place. The other silver-haired old man with brutal eyes also spoke in a dense manner. After his words sounded, 2 vast and mighty aura also suddenly surged out from within the bodies of those two. Immediately, it swept apart like a storm. It caused the expressions of those surrounding experts to change slightly. All of them hurriedly withdrew. 3 elite Dozuns stood tall on this mountaintop. That frightening pressure was just like a tall mountain that crushed onto Xiao Yan's group. Xiao Yan slowly exhaled a breath of air when faced with this frightening pressure. Immediately, he once again took 2 steps forward in front of everyone's eyes. His fingers still continued to point towards the foot of the mountain. A low and deep voice resounded beside everyone's ears like a muffled thunder. This is the final time I'm saying this. Roll down from here or descend while lying down. Xiao Yan's icy cold voice slowly fell. 3 hidden frightening aura behind him also erupted without holding back at this moment. The appearance of these 3 auras had basically forcefully scattered the energy pressure that pounced over in an instant. Rumble. Faced with the sudden retaliation from such a frightening aura, the expressions of Lei Zunja's group immediately changed. Their feet also hurriedly took 2 steps back. 4 Dozuns. For vast and mighty auras were entangled like an enormous dragon. The powerful pressure formed at that moment not directly shook Le Zunja trio until they took 2 continuous steps back, but the faces of those wind-lightning pavilion experts around them also became ghastly pale. Even their breathing had become heavy. Their eyes were also covered with shock. The majestic aura that suddenly erupted also stirred an uproar around the place. Everyone were stunned as they looked at Little Fairy Doctor's 3-people group, which was standing behind Xiao. At this moment, they finally discovered that the 3 people, who kept an unusually low profile while quietly standing behind Xiao, were actually also genuine Dozun class experts. In this way, if one included Xiao himself, 4 elite Dozuns would have appeared on the falling Star Pavilion side. This kind of lineup was far from what the Wind Lightning Pavilion could compare with. Le Zunja's body quickly paused after having taken 2 steps back. His eyes contained a shocked expression as he looked at the 3 people behind Xiao. Other than that unfamiliar-looking strong man, he discovered that the beautiful young lady and the old man beside her had actually reached the peak of the 3-star Dozun class. Such strength was definitely not any weaker than him. How is this possible? Since when did the falling Star Pavilion possess so many elite Dozuns? A great storm brewed within Le Zunja's heart. Most of those which could become a renowned faction in the Central Plains did indeed possess some hidden foundation. However, it had also been some centuries since his Wind Lightning Pavilion had been founded. If one was to count, its history was even longer than that of the Falling Star Pavilion. Yet, the foundation to take out 3 Dozun-class expert offhand was a little overly rich. Those 2 beast-robe old men beside Le Zunja also had a slight change in expression at this moment. Finally, they began to felt that things were troublesome. For Dozuns, even if one sum up the peak experts from both their clans, it was likely that they would not make such a figure. Under the pressure of this vast and mighty aura, the atmosphere on the mountain top had also become a lot more constrained. The Wind Lightning Pavilion disciples, who were still proud earlier, were looking at each other at this moment. They did not dare to make any unusual movement. This friend, that old man in tiger robes widened his mouth. He wanted to say something, but could only wisely keep his mouth shut after seeing Xiao icy cold face. He turned his head and looked at the increasingly gloomy-looking Le Zunja beside him. In this current situation, it was obvious that the Wind Lightning Pavilion was at a disadvantage. It would be fine if they leave as soon as possible. Should a battle end up occurring and they were forcefully thrown out, they would only end up losing even more face. Le Zunja's expression was as deep as water. His eyes were staring intently at Xiao. A moment later, he finally clenched his teeth and said, "Great brat. If I knew this back then, I would have personally killed you." Xiao smiled slightly, ignoring this kind of hindsight that had occurred many years later. "Go." That smile of Xiao caused Le Zunja's heart to erupt into an endless fury after the latter saw it. However, in this current situation, he also understood that with the strength of Xiao's group, it was sufficient to forcefully throw them down the mountain. A hero did not seek to suffer an obvious loss. The experts from the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe had yet to arrive. At that time, there would naturally be the opportunity for this little bastard to cry. Le Zunja waved his hand after forcefully suppressing the fury in his heart, after which he walked towards the mountain road that led to the foot of the mountain with a gloomy expression. The many Wind Lightning Cloud disciples behind him also kept their tents in a depressed manner before following him like dogs that had lost their homes. "Xiao, it is too early for you to be happy. This venerable self will come and seek payment for the trouble today." Le Zunja paused and spoke in a dense low voice when he was passing by Xiao. "I will await you any time." Xiao smiled and said, "Humph." Le Zunja's face twitched upon seeing this situation. He suddenly waved his sleeve and led the entire group away. A cheer immediately erupted amongst the disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion as they watched the miserable-looking Wind Lightning Pavilion disciples withdrawing from this place. Their eyes contained some additional respect when they looked at Xiao. When their pride were stepped on by others, Xiao had led them to regain their pride. At this moment, These disciples felt for the first time that the falling Star Pavilion might become increasingly strong if they had such a junior pavilion chief. Who? Mu Qingluan, whose emotions had been tensed, also quietly sighed in relief. She secretly glanced at Xiao Yin by the side. This fellow was not even the least bit afraid, even when faced an expert renown in the Central Plains like Lei Zunjia. This point was completely different from a couple of years ago. Set up the tents first, Xiao Yin smilingly said. Understood. The orders of Xiao Yin at this moment undoubtedly had some weight within the hearts of the Falling Star Pavilion's disciples. Hence, all the disciples from the Falling Star Pavilion responded in Yuzhen after hearing him speak. They immediately scattered and once again set up the tents. Seeing that this fight for a campsite on this mountain top was finally over, those human figures in the surrounding sky finally shook their heads while not feeling satisfied. After which, they scattered. The big battle that they had anticipated the most did not erupt. This caused them to feel a little depressed. Xiao Yin, although we have frightened off the Wind Lightning Pavilion today, they will definitely be unwilling to crush their teeth and swallow them. Therefore, you should be careful.
Mu Qingluan reminded.
Yes. Xiao Yin nodded slightly. He said, our main aim is the soul baby fruit. No matter what happens, we must obtain this thing. If the Wind Lightning Pavilion really wished to intervene, they should not blame us for being ruthless. Mu Qingluan nodded slowly as she looked at the chillness flickering on the young face. She said, I am not worried about the Wind Lightning Pavilion. This place is after all the Beast region. The Wind Lightning Pavilion has a good relationship with the Heaven Demon Phoenix. If they were to intervene at that time, we will deal with the situation accordingly when trouble arises. Even if today's event did not occur, the Heaven Demon Phoenix will still attack if they view me as an eyesore. Xiao Yin smiled randomly. He slowly walked to the edge of the mountain top. His eyes were narrowed as he looked at the middle of the mountain range. That direction is the place where the ancient remains has appeared this time around. Xiao Yin nodded slightly. He could sense that there was some distorted arc in that space. Clearly, the owner had placed an extremely powerful barrier on the ancient remains. There are many dangers within this ancient remains. Quite a number of extremely powerful ancient puppets guards that place. Additionally, there are also some strange traps. Even an elite Dozun will not dare to be careless. Elder who was behind Xiao Yin, spoke respectfully. The ancient remains is hidden within a spatial seal. Every once in a while, some crack lines will appear on the spatial ripple. Quite a number of powerful people has barged in during this period of time. However, most of them ended up escaping miserably from it. Oh! Xiao Yin raised his eyebrows. It seemed that this ancient remains must still not be underestimated despite it having experienced such a great amount of time. However, no elite Dozuns has entered it up till now. This spatial seal possessed a restriction ability. If an elite Dozun tries to forcefully enter, it will trigger an extremely powerful seal backlash. A seal that is placed by an elite Dosheng is not something that an ordinary Dozun would dare to test with his body despite the seal having experienced countless amount of time. No Dozuns has entered? Xiao Yin frowned immediately when he heard this. Did that not mean that he was also unable to enter? Cuckoo, Junior Chief need not be worried. This seal is already extremely thin. At the very most, the seal will gradually scatter after a few more days. Without the defense of the seal, elites Dozuns will also be able to safely enter it. Currently, there are quite a number of elite Dozuns around the ancient remains who are waiting for this moment. Elder who fondled his beard and smilingly explained. Xiao Yin sighed in relief only after hearing this. His eyes swept over the surrounding lush green mountains. With his sharp spiritual perception, he could indeed sense some extremely vague majestic aura. A surprise involuntarily flashed across his eyes at this moment. It was indeed worthy of being an ancient remains. This many elite Dozuns were actually attracted by it. It appeared that a bloody fight would be unavoidable in this remains battle. Did you discover anyone from the Hall of Souls? A thought suddenly passed through Xiao Yan's heart as he asked. Elder who frowned slightly upon hearing this. He voiced his thoughts. I have not seen them until now. However, those fellows are usually strange and unpredictable. Even if they have come, it is likely that the two of us will not be able to discover them. However, based on the guess of the old me, the rumors about this ancient remains is spread quite widely. The Hall of Soul will likely also intervene. However, we do not know just how many experts has come. Xiao smiled slightly and nodded. A chillness flashed across his eyes. The ones whom you need to be worried about in this Bone Mountain range is not the Hall of Soul. Being the owners of this place, the 9 serene deep ground python are the most troublesome to deal with. Not only did these fellows possess a large number, but there are many experts amongst them. Even the Heaven Demon Phoenix tribe is unwilling to exchange blows with them. However, I feel that things are a little strange. This place can be considered the territory of the 9 serene deep ground python tribe. Given their character, they actually did not choose to seal off the mountain range. Instead, they had allowed this news to spread. Mu Qingluan softly spoke in a somewhat doubtful manner. 9 serene deep ground python, Xiao muttered to himself. He also nodded slightly. By being able to become one of the 3 great tribes of the magical beast world, this 9 serene deep ground python was definitely not an ordinary faction. Cuckoo, currently, the 9 serene deep ground python tribe is unable to even take care of themselves. Where would they find the effort to come and manage this ancient remains? Elder who shook his head and laughed when he heard this. Unable to take care of themselves? What has happened? Mu Qingluan asked in surprise. I am also not certain about this. However, from the information that we have inquired, some of the experts from the 9 serene deep ground python tribe has disappeared in a baffling manner recently. An elite Dozun from the 9 serene deep ground python tribe is included amongst these missing experts. Currently, they are crazily searching for the murderer. The thing that is really unbelievable is that the one who has attacked the 9 serene deep ground python tribe is actually alone. Elder who fondled his beard and sighed. The expressions of Xiao and Mu Qingluan were that of being shocked upon hearing these words. Just who was this strong person who actually dared attack the 9 serene deep ground python tribe?